What's up, y'all? Kevin Kuhn here from Athlete Factors. This is the Athlete Factors podcast. I'm with an old running rival, Nik Schweikert. What's up, Nick?
Oh, not much. How's it going?
Just living the dream. So I say rival, but I don't think I ever beat you in anything. So
I don't know. You might have. I don't know. I don't remember. I was just explaining to my wife the other day. She said, asked how I knew you. And I said, well, I ran against someone who was at Cedarville. And I go, wait a minute. I ran against someone who was in high school.
Yeah.
Going out to Albuquerque, New Mexico together. So
That's right. Good old times with the Yellow Springs crew.
Yes. Yep.
Doing some junior Olympic cross country.
Yes, that's exactly what I remember.
Yeah. So we were technically teammates before we were competitors against each other. So
correct. True.
Even in high school, I don't think we ever raced y'all, because you guys were, big school division and little Cedarville. We had had the small school division on lock. So,
correct. Yes.
but yeah. So tell us a little bit about your history with running, how you got into it, and take us all the way up through kind of what you're doing now.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess for me, running was originally I was still playing football when I was like kind of 8th grade. Played football freshman year, not really the fastest anymore, so I needed to try something different to stay in shape for basketball. So I remember the basketball coach kind of being like, you either can run cross country, you can go to the weight room, or you can go play football. And I thought, well, football's already out. I hate the weight room, so let's go see what running's about, kind of deal.
Nice.
Yeah. So as I got started running, kind of, I still remember I was younger, and my dad was kind of like, you're not going to go run unless you can, beat me around the block twice. Is really like the first time I remember running. So we went out. The block was probably about 400 meters, and we raced around twice. And I remember getting back in the house, and my mom said, "Where's your dad?" And I said, "I don't know. He's way behind me." So that's kind of how it started. I always laugh because I remember showing up to practices in like basketball shoes and long baggy shorts and not running at all and just kind of being there. So it kind of just started as a conditioning thing. And I still remember my first race in high school running, and kind of we were towards the back, and I was with my teammates, and I lived in Tennessee at the time. I actually lived there for 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year. And we were towards the back of the race, and I looked at my teammates and said, "What are we doing back here?" And they said, "What do you mean? If you think you can do better, go do it." And I remember finishing the race, and I was kind of mad, and they're like, "What place you get?" And I was like, 3rd, and I would have won if it wasn't for you guys.
Nice. That's hilarious.
So it was kind of a natural thing. I always tell my runners now that I coach, I have a bunch of stupid stories of all the things I thought, like reasons why I beat people in races, and they never make any sense to anyone else, but it's like, so I kind of just started running just to get in shape. Conditioning, and I was naturally kind of good at it. So it kind of was like, okay, I'm good at this and I can beat people at it. So as I kind of got a little bit into that realm of it, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. But, I still, freshman, sophomore year, still found any way I could to get out of a workout. So
typical person getting into the sport. Sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. And so once we got through kind of that phase of it, I actually moved to Beavercreek when I was a junior. And that's kind of when the first time I ever ran in a summer, or the summer was my junior year, leading like right before my junior cross country season. Mm-hmm. And I was just telling someone this story today. First race at Beavercreek, it was like the day before the first meet. They just got me to get running shoes. The first time I ever owned real running shoes was junior year of high school. They're like, "Oh, you got to get running shoes." And I remember the night before the first race, they're like, "What shoes? What spikes can I race in tomorrow?" I'm like, "Spikes? What are you talking about? Like baseball cleats?" So my junior year of high school, they're like, "No, you got good spikes." So I went and got a pair of spikes, and I remember showing up to the line that day, and I thought, man, this is all new to me. Like, these are real runners. So I thought, well, maybe I can make the varsity team. So I remember trying to I might make the varsity team. And I actually remember it was Billy Prisbilo was from Centerville, and we were racing against them. And I remember 800 meters to go, they're like, "Oh, you got to go." And all of a sudden I take off, and I end up winning the whole race thinking I was just trying to make the varsity team. But no, again, one of those things where I was like, no idea what I was doing, but they're like, "You think you can make varsity?" And I was like, I don't know. And then I ended up winning the whole race. So I had no idea what I was doing.
That's amazing. That's such a hilarious story. What's really funny? There's so many times where that sort of thing happens within the sport of running. Like, you remember Judd Brooker?
Oh, yeah. Yep, definitely.
So, his mom, it was sort of that situation with his mom. And, I think she was maybe a cheerleader or something. And this was, while she was in college. She'd, never run before. And then She was like, yeah, I'll try running. And then, she makes a couple US teams in the 800. Like,
Oh,
no big deal.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So it's just funny how that sort of thing happens. But, so yeah, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
No, you're fine. So then from there, I guess I kind of fell in love with the sport and just the idea of competition stuff, and had a pretty good end to my high school career and just looking for different colleges and stuff. And that's where I ended up going to Malone. I actually was not on my list of things. Where I wanted to go was not Malone at all. I didn't even know where Malone was. I didn't know it existed. I actually was running at the Midwest Meet of Champions my senior year of high school, and I actually kind of collapsed, blacked out after the race. I ended up having an iron deficiency. I didn't know it at the time, but I ended up blacking out like the last 3 races of my senior year, and I had no idea. So I came to it, and the guy was standing over me with the Malone hat on, and I kind of looked at him, and I said, "Oh, Malone keeps sending me crap in the mail, and I keep throwing it away." So he's kind of like, "Oh," and then, that time I wanted to go to Clemson or Kentucky or Miami, Ohio, like one of the MAC schools where all the MAC schools were kind of in play. But I'm like, Malone, no way. He kind of said, "Oh, Jack Hasten's a great coach. You at least got to give him a chance." So I said, "Oh, I guess." So since he helped me up, I kind of ended up being Dugan Hill, who actually coaches at Caldwell. He's a pretty big coach down in Ohio, southern Ohio, but he ended up helping me up, and so it was kind of interesting to see that that's how it kind of played out. So I ended up visiting Malone, and actually on my visit, Coach Hazen wasn't even there. So on my visit, his flight got canceled, and he wasn't even at the visit. So his flight got canceled, so I ended up just kind of hanging out with the guys, and I liked them. But then actually Hazen made a trip to my house because he felt so bad. I think it's like one of the only trips he's ever gone to a recruit's house, so he felt bad. He felt bad, so he came down to my house. He actually stopped in Yellow Springs and got himself some ice cream at the dairy place, and I remember all that stuff. And so he came to visit, and I said, "All right." So that's how I kind of ended up at Malone then, and my running career really kind of took off at Malone, I guess. I mean, it was an up and down career. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I thought about transferring a couple of times. I got homesick. I was like 3.5 hours away. Any running journey kind of has its ups and downs. And so I had some downs while I was at Malone, and all those times it was always like, should I walk away from this or should I keep doing it? It was kind of crazy because my first race in college, similar to like my high school races, I ended up going out, and this kid actually had a hat on backwards. It was a red hat. And I remember in high school, we weren't allowed to wear hats. So I thought, what is this guy doing wearing a hat? And I was like, I can't lose to a guy with a hat on backwards. So I ended up out kicking the guy at the end and won the whole race. And it was a similar story. I thought I literally the night before I just want to make varsity so I can go to the Chicago trip, because we went to Chicago. I just got to be top 7. So I went out in like 10th on the team, and I'm like sitting in the back with a couple guys from Malone, Ryan Kinsel, and Justin Baum. They're a year older than me, and we're sitting kind of towards the back, and I'm like sitting, I'm like counting. I'm like 10th on the team right now, but it's all right. I was scared. I mean, it was 5 miles. I was used to running, 5K was long for me in high school. I was more a middle distance runner. So I was nervous, but then by the end of it, I remember coming out of the woods, and they're like, the guy's right up there, and I see the red hat backwards, and I thought, I can't lose to that guy. So I kicked it in and ended up winning my first ever college race. So
that's amazing.
Do
you know who that guy was?
His last name was Medina. He was from University of California, Pennsylvania, I think. I think that's from. So he's a pretty good runner. I think he ended up being a good 10K runner. It was just one of those like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Like, and they all after the race, they're like, what place did you get? And I was like, first. And then all the guys at Mullen like, what? How'd you get first? I was like, I really don't know. So I had no idea.
Did you cheat?
Yeah, I didn't, but they probably thought that. So at that time, so I guess as my career kind of went up and down, I had a little bit of a couple rough patches and in between there, but I stuck with it and then kind of brought it all together my senior year and had a pretty good senior season. My senior year was kind of weird because I remember this. We did a time trial before the season every year, and before my senior year, I had trained super hard that summer. And the time trial, I got like crushed by a couple guys, and I literally remember calling my mom and saying, I think I might just redshirt this year and come home and just take a year off. And I was like, I'm not sure I want to do this. And then lo and behold, a few weeks later, it all came together. But at that time, it literally was a down patch. I mean, I thought like, I don't know if I want to do this. Kind of how running always kind of works, and it's unique. But then, 4 weeks later, whatever, I ended up winning the All Ohio championship, and a month before I wanted to quit. So that's how it goes. Sometimes it literally was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I want to come home. Until a month later, I was like back riding high. So I guess from Malone, after Malone, I kept running. So that was kind of an interesting experience. I did kind of the whole post-collegiate thing, and that's then we could have a whole podcast on that, because that's an experience for anyone that does it. Because you're kind of trying to, like, I was working at a running shoe store, just trying to put in as many miles as I can, try to win some prize money at races, try to get shoe deals here and there. I ended up running for Newton, running elite, which was a fun experience. And And it was cool because like Mike Anderson ran at the University of Dayton, and I trained with him some of the summer. He ended up on the team there too, so I knew some people, familiar with some people. That's a good experience. I traveled all over the world for that stuff, so that was fun. But I kind of got to a point where I just wanted to hang him up and start a family and start coaching, and so that's kind of 4 years ago. I just was like, I'm done with this kind of deal. Started coaching football actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so I totally walked away from the sport of running altogether. To be honest, I didn't want anything to do with it for about 3 years. I said I don't even want to like think about running, talk about running. I kind of wanted a break. And then the cross country job came open here, and they asked me at first if I wanted to do it, and I said no. So I said no. I want to stay away from it. I actually think it's kind of cross country is hard to coach because I expect so much out of the kids, so it's hard on them sometimes, I'm sure, because I know what I did. So I'm always like, no, you can't do that. You got to work harder than that. So sometimes I got to remember what I did as a freshman and sophomore in high school, and not what I did as a junior and senior. But yeah, so it's different.
You got to wear basketball shoes. You got to get some longer shorts. Let's go, guys. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Go hide a basketball in the woods. That's what I did my sophomore year. Go play hoops at the community college every day instead of run.
Nice.
So so it was kind of like, I don't know if I want to get back into running. So I kind of shut it off for a couple of years, and 3 years did nothing with it. Then they got me back into coaching, and even for a year after coaching cross country, I still was kind of like, I don't know. And here, the fun part is the story how I got back into it this time was I was getting ready to run a race because one of my good friends, Tony Migliozzi, who has been like a world 50K champ or whatever. So he's, pretty competitive. He's like, hey, get back into running. Okay. I want to get back into just general shape fitness for my kids. I got 3 kids now. So I thought I kind of want to be in general shape. I've actually lost 40 pounds almost in about 4 months. So I was 4 months ago, I was really out of shape, and I thought,
round is a shape.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I'll try this running again and see what happens. So I went and ran a 5K. It was a night glow, and I was getting ready to run, and my daughter says, hey, Daddy, can we come watch you run? And she's 5. And I said, no, it's going to be way past your bedtime, and Daddy's going to do awful. Like, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be terrible. And she goes, are you going to win? And I said, I just laughed. I was like, win? Are you kidding me? And I was like, no way. I was like, I'll be happy if I finish and not die, And so she looked at me and all serious and was kind of like, well, then what are you running for? I'm like, ooh, ouch.
Wow.
And it kind of hit me back the last time I was doing this, and the reason I walked away is because I was doing it competitively, and I didn't know if I could do it not competitively. So if I'm going to run it, we're either going all in or all out. I mean, that's usually my personality. So I thought, well, let's go see what this looks like. And it was pretty ugly. I think it was 17:56. I barely broke 18. And afterwards I sat on the side of the curb for 10 minutes without moving for sure. I mean, I was dead. So it was awful. I was like, this is the worst I've ever felt in my life. It was pretty bad. So then after that, I thought, all right, well, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it. So I started kind of eating right, cut out all kinds of stuff like pop. I mean, I drank 0 pop. I mean, I didn't drink pop for 13 years, and all of a sudden I was hooked on it again. So cut that out, cut out all the junk food, stopped the fast food eating. I haven't been Taco Bell in 4 months. That was a shock. The coaching diet is a lot different than the running diet, because with coaching, there's some nights you eat at midnight, so that your options are Taco Bell or a bowl of cereal at home. So neither one are really great at midnight. But so I had to fix the diet and change things, lose some weight, get back into running, take it kind of seriously. It's been an interesting journey because there were some struggling runs back at the start. But it's been fun because it's been kind of I get to kind of experience it from the start, from the person who's not been running to jump into it. I got to experience it kind of with the cross country kids as they were going. I was kind of going with them. And got back into it. I've dropped quite a bit of time along with the weight, and the mileage has gotten up higher. But my biggest fear right now has been just don't get injured, because that could be pretty bad. And my commute, I actually run to and from work every day, so that's my mode of transportation too. So it's double, don't get hurt. So
nice. How far is your commute?
It's only 2 miles. So I usually run 2 miles, actually drop all my stuff off, and then go run more and come back. So
gotcha.
And then I run the cross country team after school, and then run back home. So it's an interesting experience on my own personal running right now. So it's been a journey, but it's been fun.
Gotcha. So what's your current mileage looking like?
About 70 to 80 miles a week. I think the max of it so far is 85. It's taken, time to get up there though. Took a little bit of time, but I've been hitting about, I'd say I'm averaging about 80, which has been good. I'd like to get a little bit higher, but I also don't want to get hurt. So it's a fine balance.
Yeah, for sure. There's a fine line there. My body could not handle that much mileage even when I was in college. Like it wasn't for me. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So what, like, are you honing in on specific distances right now? Or do you want to keep it at 5K, 10K? What's the long-term goal?
Yeah, so kind of funny. My original goal was let's get in shape for a turkey trot. So I thought I could run the 5K with a turkey trot and be competitive. Because after my daughter kind of said the whole gonna win a race thing, I thought, well, maybe I can win the turkey trot. So I'll get in shape by then. So I thought, let's take it slow, not big goals. But honestly, I got in shape way faster than I expected. So I started running some 5Ks. And the second 5K I ran, I think I ended up running like 16:30. So I dropped a minute pretty quick. And I was like, oh, okay. So let's see if the next one I can, go a little bit faster, break 16. And the last 5K I did, I ended up running like 15:38. So that was like, I think it was 2 months of training at that point in time. And then I just did a 10K a week. It's been a week ago. And I ended up running 31:25. So like two 15:40s together. So I was like,
wow.
All right, well, we're getting there. But I still don't really know. It's kind of the fun of it, I guess, is I don't, because I don't have like there's no like, this is the first time I've ever not had someone writing training plans for me. I'm just kind of doing my own thing and feeling it out, which is kind of nice. So I don't have a long-term plan necessarily. I am going to try to run the Pro Football Hall of Fame half marathon, but that's not till April. It's kind of weird because there's going to be a dead period for racing. I mean, who races in January and February and December? Like those aren't really race periods. So it's going to be kind of dead.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be kind of weird. I kind of want to see what I can do in a half marathon in the spring. And it's weird because I honestly thought I would be done, but I think I can still get back into, maybe the best shape I've ever been in. It's not, I mean, it's been 4 years off, but it's still like, I can feel it's still kind of there. So we'll see.
Yeah. If you've been able to do this in just a couple months time, like you've already run faster than my best 10K. So after a couple months of training, so
we'll see. 4 years off hurt a little bit. Yeah. That 10K, I ran stupid. So I tried to win the thing thinking I was in better shape than I was and ran kind of stubborn my old ways. It's hard to break bad habits. So I took the lead a couple times and threw some surges in. And I'm like, afterwards, I was like, what was I doing?
Sometimes you got to risk it though,
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I mean, that's one of the things I was just recently talking to a kid about being a racer versus a pacer. And you look at the whole 2-hour marathon thing. I know that's a big debate right now where everyone's talking about the shoes versus, but my biggest problem with it is that it was just a time trial that we all publicized instead of an actual like race. I'd rather see two people race for 2 hours and see who can get it versus guys forming the flying V and doing all the pace work.
For me, the laser and the whole thing. Yeah.
To me, that's kind of boring. That's not like that. To me, running was always like a racing thing. I never like was a good pacer. Like even in college, when I ran my best times, I remember when I ran 14:06 was my fastest 5K. Afterwards, they told me I did, and I didn't believe them because I had no idea what pace I was running during the race. They're like,
"Wow,
you just ran 14:06." I'm like, "No, I didn't. What did I really run?" And I'm like, "What? That's the pace." They're like, "No, you did." And I'm like, "I don't believe you." Like until it shows it on the board, and literally I waited and it showed on the board. And I was like, "Well, I guess I did." But I guess we went to the mile like 4:28, and I had no idea. I mean, I didn't hear it. They were like, someone said it. They're like, well, we were telling you your splits every 400. I'm like, you think I listened to any of that? Like, I was just running. So some people like that stuff. Yeah, some people like that, the timing and stuff. I never liked it. Even in workouts and stuff, I generally like to know what I was supposed to hit, but I hated when I was probably a bad athlete to coach because I'd telling me I'm not hitting split right. I'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, too slow wasn't unacceptable, but too fast, I'd always be like, come on, I'm running faster than I'm supposed to. I never got it. I was like, oh. So I kind of want to see the racing. So I always say racer, let's race a little bit. So yeah, and the surges in the 10K was me racing a little just to see get back into that feel of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty awesome, man. So, yeah, when I was I've been following you on Facebook since, whenever. And so to see that story that you shared about your daughter, I was like, this is cool. Like, not expecting this though. Like, I'm super shocked and I'm so impressed by it, man. So keep it up. It's pretty awesome stuff.
I didn't expect it either, but you never know. Never know what's going to happen. I joked too because I actually had to give a sermon the Sunday after she did that to me, and I gave a sermon. I got up there and used that in the sermon, and I kind of laughed because I started relating the whole thing to running, and then I got back. That's kind of when I was kind of reflecting, and I was like, that Monday after, I was like, maybe I'm supposed to do this because my daughter's calling me out on it. It's reflecting on my sermon that I had to give at church for Sunday, and I'm like, maybe it's time to just see what could happen. So we did it, but yeah, I didn't expect this, and that's why I don't really know where this is going. I really don't. But wherever it goes, I just hope it's a cool story that someone uses to inspire themselves to say, you know what, if he can get off his couch after 4 years and lose 40 pounds and get back into running and do something,
Yeah.
I'd love to run one race and just PR and just be like, you know what, at 33, after 4 years of sitting on my couch, I came back and I ran a PR, and someone can, that's, I see these women, there's a couple women there in the Olympic trials that are like, what, 38 and 43 or something like that are moms of 3 that are running and stuff. And I think there's no excuse at this point. I mean, I get up at 4 a.m. every day to run, but that's what you got to do, so it's a little different, but it's fun.
It's inspirational, man. Like the fact that, just because you're past what most people would consider your prime doesn't mean you're necessarily past your prime. So the human body can do amazing things, and we tend to put these ranges of time where it's like, okay, like when you're in college, that's when you figure out if you've got what it takes to run at the next level, and then you do it, and then when it's done, when your time's up, all right, you move on to something else. You either coach or a lot of people just leave the sport altogether and they never kind of look back. So it's been interesting to follow your story because you're not only coaching it, you're also back at it and doing pretty well. So perfect segue. Tell us a little bit about coaching.
Yeah, so coaching, it's a difficult transition. Sometimes it's a change. Like I said, I wasn't even sure. I wasn't 100% sure I ever wanted to coach cross country again. Like I was kind of liking the football thing. I was kind of like, the cross country thing always scared me. Same thing, like I always tell people, like I'm always nervous with my kids running because my expectations are going to be so high. I mean, they just are, because I just always think of, well, why would you, like I just naturally was gifted, so it's hard. Like I was God-given ability that I don't have a lot. I have high pain tolerance. I don't feel a lot when I run, and I just keep going. And so I always feel bad for the kids because my expectations for them are that they don't feel anything either, and that they're going to keep pushing. so
it hurts, coach. Don't feel it.
Yeah. Sometimes I tell them before races all the time, the only 2 things I can guarantee is that you're going to run and it's going to hurt. Like, that's it. Those are the only 2 things I can promise. The rest of it's up to you, what happens in between, because I can't call timeout. That's the thing that drives me nuts about cross country Sundays too, is like with coaching basketball too. I can call timeout and be like, what are you doing? During cross country, you're standing there going, what's he doing right now? What's she doing? I don't know what to do. And you have 3 seconds to yell something real quick and hope they hear it and hope they understand what you're saying and hope they know what the feedback is. Mm-hmm. The adjustments are hard to make. It's shorten your stride or relax your shoulders or go try to, give me a couple quick steps and get right back on his shoulder. But it's not like you can't be like, timeout. Why'd you go out way too fast? Why was mile 1 your PR? So, stuff like that. You can't make that adjustment. So, for me, coaching has been kind of difficult, but I love it. I mean, I wouldn't change everything. I always wanted to coach. I honestly, like, the time away from cross country actually helped me away from running. Like, I love it again. I have a super passion for it. Saturday mornings are great. I mean, there's nothing like a cross country Saturday morning. I mean, Friday night football was fun, but I knew my passion again once I got back into it, but it took getting back into it and seeing things from a different angle. My big thing with coaching, I had to change a lot of things, is not focus on, their times and their time goals, but are we teaching them life lessons through coaching? Mm-hmm. So that's the same thing with, like, basketball, track, all of them. It's like life experiences. It's not, we try to focus in on like one thing for the year. That this is what we're going to do. We have like 5 core values for cross country and track that we use. And the first one's just be the best version of yourself. I mean, if you do that, then we're going to do something. Because I just recently had a kid, he actually wrote me a thank you note, because he went from being, when we started 2 years ago, when I started back coaching cross country, he was like a 30-minute 5K kid. And this year he PR'd at 19:30. So, I mean, he went from that, and he wrote me a thank you. Just, he has now his confidence. I mean, to me, that's more important than how fast did he ever run, because, the confidence that he gained, hopefully he takes that for the rest of his life, knowing you can do something that you didn't think you could do.
For sure.
So for me, for coaching, that's more important. Last year we focused for cross country on finish every race strong. Like, I wanted your best 10 seconds at the end of every race, just like, and we related to life, like everything you do in life, finish the best you can. You always finish all the way through, finish hard, and we use that. This year we kind of used a next step mentality, is what we called it, and it was always just make your next step your best step. So in the race, when you get tired, we use different step counts. I use like a 10-step count for them. Like, you're tired, give me 10 hard steps, count those 10 steps, and then relax for a second, and then give me 10 hard steps, but kind of keep thinking that next step is my best step. And we use that for, if you had a good race or a bad race, our next step is going to be better than what that one was. So it wasn't just steps in the race, but it was steps throughout the season and progressions. And so those are kind of 2 like life things we use. We use a lot of the E plus R equals O stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen that stuff, but the event plus the response equals the outcome. Just because we talk about how to handle adversity. So we always talk about you're going to handle adversity the rest of your life. So how can you handle adversity here? Because there's going to be bad races. There's going to be bad moments. There's going to be times we have to overcome. So how are we going to do that? So for me, I guess coaching is more about life experiences. The running part, I mean, I have a general idea how I feel about my philosophy with training and training high school athletes and that. But to me, that's not as important as like, are they getting life experience they're going to carry with them for the rest of their life? Because they're probably not going to run for the rest of their life, but they might, at 29, they might, or 33, they might decide after 4 years to get back off the couch and do it again. But I can't guarantee that, but I can guarantee that they're going to experience life the rest of their time. And so it's important that they get those things from running, which is what I think is beautiful about running in general, is that it relates to the path of life so well versus some of the other sports. It's like they do, but they don't at the same time, where running, it's like, it's a journey and life's a journey. And how do you handle that journey? And that's mainly what we talk about a lot, more so than even training philosophy. I mean, they have a general idea what my training philosophy is, but we talk about life more than we do about actual running, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's really awesome. I think that's super helpful for people. Like there's very few athletes in any sport, but running specifically, that don't need to be reminded of the parallels between the adversity of training and the hard work that you have to put into training and running every day, and the potential benefits, the adaptations, the outcome, your increase in fitness, your increase in resiliency, your ability to deal with really, really hard moments in a race. And like the parallel to life is, I mean, there's very few people who don't need that type of reminder.
Oh yeah.
Like, so to be able to reinforce that into especially kids nowadays, I think that's huge. I think that's really helpful. As somebody who works with kids, I try to do stuff like that all the time. So I work primarily with kids Mondays and Wednesdays, and they do all kinds of sports. So what I'm doing is primarily strength and conditioning and injury prevention and athletic performance stuff. And before we dive into the actual workout, like I want to know how their day's going. I want to know what they learned in school, and I want to make sure that they know that, I'm invested in who they are as a person, because like you said, ultimately they're not going to be playing sports the rest of their life. They're going to be living life. And so, the other things that they're doing related to the sport is important, because there's a lot of aspects of life that you need to be prepared for, and you need to, you need to be mindful of. And so I think that's really good that even though they're playing the sport, you're helping prepare them for the rest of their life. It's good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, like you just said there, the relationship piece is so important that a lot of times coaches forget it. Is like, like you just said, I want to know, how'd your day go? How's life at home? I mean, I got lots of kids, we're dealing with different stuff at home. I mean, I can't expect a kid to perform at his best if, someone just had a big injury at home, or an illness or a death in the family. Like, you got to know those things. Mm-hmm. And once you have those relationships and the kids see that you're invested in them, I think they let you push them a little harder too. Like, you can ride a kid a little bit harder if he knows that at the end of the day you're going to give him a hug on his way out. They understand.
They trust you.
But if you're gonna ride a kid and then you don't have that relationship with them, they don't respond usually very well. So, it's easier to push a kid when you have that relationship where you're invested, when you know who their siblings are, or what their favorite sport are, what video games they're playing at home, what's their subject, what do their grades look like, are they struggling in something, and then those are the first kids that'll come and talk to you about anything else they need help with too, which is, to me, again, more important than the sport. And then what you'll see is, I think once you build the relationship and you get the buy-in from those kids knowing that you care, you'll push them harder and they'll do more for you. I mean, once they buy into that whole team culture and I believe all the stuff in the cultures and stuff, once they're into that stuff, you're going to see a better effort because they care. Because they care if they know you care. If you don't care, they're not going to care. So I think that's big too. That's why we touch on that stuff a lot more, I guess, than like I show them what their training paces are and stuff and just explain it as simple terms as I can. But we don't go into like training philosophy too much or anything like that. It's more about how we're going to handle life and adversity and even competition. I mean, I feel like a lot of times people are scared to talk about being competitive. We're so into participation awards and finisher medals. And I mean, I get all that stuff. It's great, but we don't like to talk about competition. And we just had a conversation a couple weeks ago at practice that the rest of your life you're going to be competing for something. Like it doesn't stop just because you think that all of a sudden everyone thinks it's good just to complete something. Like you're going to be competing against people for the job that you want later on in life, to get into the college that you want. So we just talk about you have to give the best effort you can every time because you are always competing for something. And I think in our world, a lot of times we don't emphasize that anymore because I don't know if it's because we want to be nice. You can be nice and compete. That's what I always tell them too. You don't have to be a jerk to compete. You still want to beat someone and you can turn and shake their hand afterwards. But if you're not giving your best effort, it's not going to help anyone in the end. So we touch on that too. I mean, I feel like that stuff's more important than let's make sure our training philosophy aligns with what you think. And you read in Runner's World this week that my workout makes sense. Like I don't. That stuff we don't really talk about as much, but we do. I mean, they know the running stuff in general. But I mean, this year I had kids for the first time after already asking me. We just finished districts, and some kids are done, and they're already like, "Coach, when's off-season conditioning start?" It's like, all right, I like that. That sounds better. So
they're fired up. They don't want to stop.
Yes, and which is good, which is what we want. That's more important than them understanding, why we did mile repeats on Wednesday. So.
So. I guess let's transition a little bit to what's the basic framework of your coaching philosophy with regards to the X's and O's, or when it comes to running, what are the main things that you're focusing on?
Yeah. So first of all, like for me, like with X's and O's stuff, it goes back to like kind of what I just said to emphasize, like if you don't get the kids to believe in what you're doing, they're not going to buy into the X. It doesn't matter what X's and O's you use because they don't believe what they're doing. They're not going to do it right anyway. So we do explain it a little bit in that sense. I think it's important to focus on the aerobic development a lot for high schoolers. I feel like when I was in high school, we focused a lot on the VO2, the anaerobic workouts, the repetition, pace, if you want to say that, or the interval pace where we're doing high intensity intervals. We do a long run together on Monday. That's always important. I feel like some schools do long runs on Sundays, which is fine, but we're not together on Sunday. I want to be with them on the long run. I want to see what it's like. I want to know what's going on. I feel like that's a really important run for high school kids. So we do that together on Monday. Tuesdays are usually like a lighter day to recover from that. And then Wednesdays we usually do, early in the season, we're doing lots of threshold intervals. So like I when I was in college, I ran when I ran 14:06, I hadn't touched a mile faster than 5 flat for 6 months. So I don't know if that's kind of, I err on the side of let's undertrain and then I can kind of like, we'll race ourselves a little bit into shape versus let's overtrain and then hope we hang on. So they know that. We talk about a lot. We use the, you got $100 to spend this week. Let's make sure we spend it wisely. We all got a big date on Saturday. So you want to save your money up for Saturday when we go spend our money on our date. So we talk about don't overdo the workouts. So we use that. So Wednesdays we do like a threshold stuff, usually like anaerobic threshold pace. And then Thursdays we'll do some type of neuromuscular stuff usually, but just a light something just to get the leg turnover. And then easy Friday, race Saturday, and then Sunday they're supposed to do a couple easy miles or take it off, just depending on who they are and where we want their mileage at. And in general, it's worked. I've had to make some tweaks. It's hard because I had a grand scheme of where I wanted things to look like, and you got to be patient because it's in 2 years. We got like halfway to what I thought I could do in year one. So it takes a lot of time. It's patience, just teaching them how to run the long run. And I like to, when long runs, I like to pick it up a little bit at the end to kind of like, okay, you're tired and let's hit a threshold pace at the end of a run. But to teach them what that looks like is a little bit more difficult than you think. I mean, to me, it was just like, I remember doing it, but I got to think like, okay, most of my team's pretty young. So most of them are freshmen, sophomores. Like, what did I do when I was a freshman, sophomore? And I'm thinking, yeah, I ran to like the bakery at Kroger and went and got snacks in the back and then ran back to the school. Like, yeah. I don't remember doing anything. So I got to kind of like tone it down for them a little bit, but we do a lot. I'm big on undertrain instead of overtrain and push up instead of pull. I always talk about the push up instead of the pull up theory. Like, I'm not going to train you at where I want you to be and try to pull you up to there. I'm going to train you at where you're at and try to push you up to where I think you can get. I feel like that keeps you so you don't overtrain, you don't overexert yourself. Our injuries are usually down because of that. We don't have a lot of injuries. We don't have a lot of kids, so we can't afford any injuries. So
for sure,
definitely got to undertrain a little. But I think high school running too is gonna be fun. So I don't like to make it so it's like give them a little bit of, let them give me feedback. I always want feedback from them too. Like, how do you feel like the workout went? Like, we usually talk on Thursdays, we have team meals, and we usually talk like, was that workout too hard? Was it too easy? Do you feel like we're pushing? Do you feel like it's not hard enough? Like, where are we at? And I'm hard on them sometimes too, because they're way off in their paces. I want to know why, because to me, with the undertraining, I think, okay, we're undertraining you. I used the Jack Daniels VDOT, like I use the VDOT score. So we're training you at a pace that's relatively like based off the time you can run. So I know you can hit these splits. So why did you not? And sometimes they'll give me excuses and I'll get upset, but usually we get through it and we figure out. So, I mean, but the thing with running too that's hard is, and I always struggle with this because I came from a football, basketball, baseball background. Like, sometimes more isn't better. And sometimes pushing through and grunting through a workout's going to set you back 2 weeks instead of cut it. Like, we're done. Like, look at heart rate. Like, I know at Malone a lot of times it was hard for me them to say, your heart rate is sky high today. Like, you're done. And I'd look at them like, there's no way. Like, I'm going to gut through this thing. But sometimes that's not the right choice. And in most sports, you're used to like, I'm going to gut through this. Like, in running, that's not always the best option. So I've always struggled with that. Like, okay, maybe we do take it a little bit easier this week and recover versus I finish a race and the next thing I want to do is how am I going to get better because that wasn't as good as I wanted. And I want to hammer on Sunday after I race on Saturday instead of, for me, let's go push hard and see how I get better. So sometimes that's a struggle with coaching kids is, all right, I got to hold you back a little bit, even though I want to push you harder. I know the best thing for you long term, and I think about long term development too. One of the big things at Malone was I remember when I got recruited, Jack Hazen said, "I'm going to make sure that you, when you leave here, you still want to run afterwards, and you still can." Because I know some college programs bring you in year one, you're running 100+ miles and high intensity, and I have 15 kids. Let's throw them against the wall, and the 7 that survive at the end are my varsity team, and let's go to nationals. And we never did that at Malone, so I try not to do that to the kids that I coach. So it's a little, I guess, I don't really know. High school cross country is so weird. There's not really a right or wrong philosophy. Different things work for different people. But in year 2, we didn't turn up the intensity too much. We did some hill repeats on Thursdays sometimes too. We'd do like a 200-meter hill we got just to do some neuromuscular stuff to get some turnover. But our mileage isn't high. It's not as high as I'd want it. But again, it's year 2. I wanted mileage to be higher than it is, but I think our boys probably average like 30 miles a week and our girls probably 20 to 25 depending on the girl, and that seems really low, but it's like we started at 0, so we can't go from 0 to 50. So I got a sophomore boy who's good, so he's working his way up and learning, but he's also our kicker for the football team, so that makes things interesting too.
Nice.
So his life's a little different. So that's another thing. I have lots of kids that do multiple things like band. I got a kid that plays football, like as a kicker. And so we have to work through those things too. So it's not like you don't get like this in high school cross country. You don't get like this clean, like I got his attention 100% of the time for any of the kids. I don't really have their attention 100% of the time. And we had some bumps and bruises this year that were like injuries that had nothing to do with us. Like I had a girl get a plantar's wart. Like that's not because of running or anything, but she couldn't put a shoe on for 2 to 3 weeks, of the beginning of the season. So it's like now we're dealing with that. So things like that are just bizarre that you're like, you've got to be kidding me right now. But that's the fun of coaching, I guess, is these kids are learning. Sometimes it's frustrating because it's like you can't seriously be asking me that or thinking that that's okay, but they are, and so we gotta work through those things because I'm like, I can't imagine that, So we didn't even have a talk this year about belly aches and headaches aren't necessarily serious illnesses. So I always tell them I used to puke after. Now it was my bad eating habits, but in high school when I'd have to run the 4x8, the 1600, the 800, the 4x4, I'd be puking between all of them. I remember I'd throw up. They'd be like, Schweikert's probably not running the 800 then, and I'd be like, oh wait 1 second, I'll be there. Throwing up in the trash can, and it's like, well, what did you eat today? Like, oh, you don't want to know, coach. Like, so.
Oh my goodness. Hey, do you remember? He only ran at Cedarville for, I think, 1 year. Daniel Roberts.
Oh yeah, I remember Daniel Roberts because he came to, and I raced him a couple times when he was like in high school, and he came to like our resolution run at Beavercreek. So
yes.
Then he went to Florida State after Cedarville. Right?
Yeah. So this is the kind of runner he was. Like while he was still early on in his running career, he may have been a freshman or sophomore.
Yeah.
He decided, I'm going to deliberately eat some Pop-Tarts before I run so that I can learn how to train through this sort of stomach pain because I want to be better than everybody.
Yeah.
Like, so counterintuitive to what I was thinking. I'm like, shoot, I don't want to eat anything because I don't want a stomach ache. And he's like, no, I want to get used to that. So it's never an issue. I'm like, holy cow. Like, dude.
Well, Daniel Robertson and I would have got along because my pre-race meal was Pop-Tarts and a cup of coffee. My half marathon PR is off of a bowl of M&Ms. That's a true story.
Nice.
So the breakfast line was too long, and so I just started eating M&Ms instead and drank a cup of coffee and had some M&Ms and went and ran 105.52 off of that. So
wow. Well,
also my 5K PR for dinner, I ate Halloween candy because I was at work and I was getting ready to order a pizza and someone brought in a bag of Halloween candy, and so I just ate that instead because it was free. So and then I went and PR'd in the 5K the next day. So
nice. That's amazing.
So my diet was never good. So it's way better now than it ever was. But yeah, I was thinking more like Dan Roberts style. Like, let's see how hard I can make this. Well, in high school, I bought the heaviest shoes I could train in and the lightest shoes I could race in, so that it would feel like I was heavy. And I was just telling kids this the other day too. No matter the weather, whatever the condition was, the last repeat when I was in high school, like it could be 10 degrees outside. I always did it with just shorts on, like no shirt, nothing, no matter what the temperature was, because I said, oh, that way when I'm in a singlet, it'll feel like I'm warmer. I mean, that's like the stupid stuff I thought was like reasonable.
But that makes you so much, mentally more tough. Like,
I do think in a way it does. I mean, it does change things. I remember I coached at Carrollton for 1 year, and I coached Cole Lovett for that year, and he ended up being a state champion in the 1600 2 years later. But I was coaching him as a sophomore, and he came out of the porta-john at the state cross country meet, and he has all this Under Armour stuff on and gloves and a hat. And I said, go back in there and take all that off. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, you look like a sissy. Like, you look limpy. And he goes, what? I go, you need to come out here and you need to literally look like you're crazy. Like, you need to be in your singlet and your shorts, and then people are going to think, oh, that guy doesn't feel anything. He's not cold. And people will literally be scared of you because they're going to think you're nuts. And he's like, yeah. Really? And he was like, yeah. And so I saw him like 2 years later. I remember I saw him and he goes, I still don't wear anything under my uniform. And I refuse to race in gloves or a hat. He goes, because you told me that makes me look soft. And I said, well, I remember being at nationals at Kenosha, Wisconsin, and it was like wind chill of like snowing. 9. I was saying it was snowing, and I was in a singlet, shorts, and everyone was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I want these Kenyans to think I'm crazy." Like I literally did.
I remember you guys always wore the sleeves.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even wear those that year. I said, nope, not even doing that. I said, forget this. Like, we're going full blown, like, just look nuts. Like, so, yeah, they thought we were, crazy, I'm sure. So it was like, oh, that's crazy. So that type of stuff was the stuff. I mean, it does make you. I actually am going to go talk to the Malone cross country team this week. They got conference, and so talk to them kind of about just how we were so competitive about everything, and just how we kind of were a little nuts at Malone for those few years because we did in every
guys' team, like especially junior and senior year, like you guys were insane.
Yeah, everything was a competition. That's what I talked about. Like we did the dumbest stuff, and you'd be like, "That is so stupid," and it was like, "Yeah, it was," but it was a competition because we all wanted to beat each other at something, and so we had like a list of people that DNF'd, and I still remember like Paul Robinson running like the last 100 of a 10K in like a minute 30 for the last 100. He just didn't want a DNF next to his name. So we're all like sitting up in the bleachers and we're laughing at him, and he like collapses afterwards and go help him afterwards. But we're just like, we're making fun of him. It's like, oh, someone timed this 100. It's going to be like the world's slowest 100 ever. And,
my gosh.
So that's the type of stuff we did. I mean, we just, it was fun, but that's, like you said, it's a mindset. You got to be a little crazy to be a runner. That's what I always tell the kids too. Like, no one signs up to run cross country and be like, I really want to be average at this. Like you want to excel, you want to be better. Like you have to be a little bit different to run cross country. It's just not a natural, like no kids are running down the hall going, yeah, I really want to sign up for this usually. It's usually like kids that are kind of like, I'll try this. It sounds like it's going to be interesting. So
yeah, it's a game of attrition. It's who can handle the most pain the longest.
Oh yeah.
Or the fastest, I guess.
Yeah.
So
right. Yeah, that's what I always tell them. It's a pain tolerance game, and not very many people want to sign up and say, I'm going to put myself in pain. And like I said, that's what I tell them before the race. There's only two things I can guarantee. You're going to run, and it's going to hurt. You're going to be in pain at some point in time. Those are the only things that – and I remember someone telling me before, a race kind of like the only reasons we don't, succeed in racing is because we have a fear of failure or we have a fear of pain. Either you're scared the pain's going to hurt or you're scared you're not going to meet the expectations that everyone else is setting for you. So – I kind of always dealt with the expectation part, so I kind of had to teach myself what the actual expectation should be, and so that's kind of why I try not to place too unrealistic expectations on the kids, because I always had unrealistic expectations for myself sometimes. And then when you don't do it, you're just like so defeated by it because you set up this. And so I had to change my mindset my senior year completely at Malone, just because my mindset before was totally wrong. And that's a whole nother conversation, but it was just a mindset change. And so that's why I try to tell the kids, like, don't fear what people have expectations for you. Set your own expectations and just do your best. And it's going to hurt. So you got to embrace it. Like, you got to kind of take it in and just use that as your motivation. And, the faster you're done, the faster the pain's done, so.
Yeah. I think that's one of the funny things that so many people don't realize about, like, it doesn't matter what your fitness level is. It sucks just as much. Like, it's all relative. Like, just because you can run faster doesn't mean it feels easier. No, It feels just as bad. You're just a little more physically conditioned and a lot more mentally maybe unstable, but definitely mentally conditioned. Like,
well, that's what it is for sure. I mean, it's not, people always say, like, I can't believe you can run that fast. And I always say, I can't believe you can stay out there running for that long, because I just want to be done as fast as I can because it hurts. Yeah, they think, because you're in shape, but all of a sudden this felt really good. And it was like, oh, it was just a joyride and a walk in the park because I've been training hard. Like, no, it still hurts just as bad. It's just that, like you said, I'm a little bit probably more mentally unstable to handle the pain and just be like, all right, we got to push through this. And that's kind of like where the next step mentality thing came from me. It was me personally. I always have to, like, I literally sometimes have to count steps, because it's just like, all right, how am I going to get through this race? Or you pick, I read a good article about picking the next landmark you see, like, all right, get to that next road sign there. Just get to that next road sign. When you get to there, just pick the next one and go, all right, I just got to get to there, because there's always times where you're falling apart in a race. And you're like, oh my gosh, I just got to finish. So it's a lot of it's just get to the next spot, get to the next 10 steps, get to the next, person that's right there, and then sit on them for a second, catch your breath. But it doesn't matter how good a shape you're in. It's going to hurt.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, chunk it into manageable sections and then just execute on that and just know that it's going to hurt.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, man. I'm glad that I don't do too much running now, because I think I'm soft, man.
Well,
I'm a lot stronger than I was back in college. I think I was a little frail back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, not the mileage that I was doing back then for sure. Now, no thanks. So, I did a couple track meets a couple years back, 200 and 400. It was awesome. Yeah. Oh, loved it. I was the only dude who didn't use blocks for the 200, and I did pretty well. So I was pretty happy about it.
There you go. I started as like wanting to do the 200, 400, and then they just like, oh, let's try the 800, let's try the 1600, let's try the 3200. And that's kind of where I was like, let's stop. Like, and then in college they say, let's try 25 laps around the track, and you're like, what?
Brutal. Yeah, I'm glad I never had to do that. My longest race on the track was steeplechase, 3K.
Wow. Really?
Yes, I was happy about. Well, I wasn't even happy about that. It was a good race. I enjoyed it, but even that seemed far.
Yeah.
But, dude, that's the thing. The bump from 5K to 8K or 10K in cross country is. Oh, I did not enjoy that transition. That was a huge bump for me.
Yeah, I came as a middle distance runner, so for me it was like, I don't know if I can do this. I remember like starting in college, them kind of wondering if we were gonna be able to do it or not. Like, just I was a miler, and all of a sudden you want me to run 5 miles on grass all at once. It seemed like a shock.
Yeah, it's a huge jump. So, do you think that as far as mileage goes, do you think it needs to be extremely different based off you're focusing more on like half marathon versus 10K versus 5K, or is it relatively the same, just maybe the intensity or the specific speed of mileage is going to be different?
Yeah, I think for me, I guess at least, like, I think there's a sweet spot, but it depends. It does depend on distance-free mileage, but I think we've almost overemphasized mileage. We've almost overemphasized the long run being as long as it needs to be. Like, it's just that's something I always kind of toy with, and I understand some of it, but like we're doing 20-mile long runs, and I'm training for a 10K. I don't understand when I was running a 5K, I was doing 10-mile long runs, and I was just fine. So why, do I need to do 20-mile long runs for just going double the distance? I mean, I guess it's the double the distancing. I don't know. I toy with all kinds of different things. I I think sometimes we overemphasize. For me, the nice thing's been with doing my own running, I go day by day. Like I literally don't plan too far in advance. I don't have a mileage goal all the time. I just kind of say, you know what, today I'm feeling this and I want to get better today and I'm going to push myself. For me this time, when I was focusing on like marathons, half marathons, I did mess with my mileage going higher for marathon than a half marathon but not and higher for that than a 10K. But I usually stuck at a sweet spot around 100 from 5K up to probably a half marathon. If I was running 100 miles a week, I usually felt fine. I wasn't too worried about it too much. I mean, but a marathon, I never mastered the marathon. So that's one of the things I'm curious about. Can I figure this out this time? Because I ran 2:24:12, I think, my first marathon, and I never ran faster. I ran two more, and they both were slower. So, and that was on the Pittsburgh course, and I ran 2:24, and that's like a decently challenging course. So but I went from a middle distance runner to trying marathons after college. I wasn't sure if that was ever my sweet spot. I love the half marathon. That's fun because you can run it and then a week later you feel okay. A marathon, you might run it and it might be months. And the hard part for me for a marathon is like you train so much for it, and then if you don't meet your goal, then you literally are going to wait for a long time till you try again. Like the other distances, like that's why I didn't really want to focus on a marathon yet this time because if I mess up in a 5K 2 weeks later, I can try another one. So
right.
But as far as mileage and training goes, I think the big difference is in the like how you train, like the paces, and like if you're going to run a marathon, you need to do stuff at marathon specific pace. But I still do marathon specific pace stuff if I'm training for a 5K. But I don't, I think you have to have a variety, I guess. I don't really. I think that sometimes we've overemphasized like this is the end all be all like training philosophy and this is the plan that has to work. I think if a day by day philosophy sometimes is the best almost, because I swear to you, I read an article once that said like in Kenya and Ethiopia, sometimes they'll get up, they'll go run, and they won't feel good that day, and they'll literally turn around and just go back, call it a day, and they don't let it mentally mess them up. Like we in the United States, we take a day off and we think we just screwed up our whole training plan, and I don't think that's the case, and that's a battle. I mean, sometimes I still think the same thing, like I didn't hit my paces today, I must be getting in worse shape, but no, it just wasn't a good day. So I've kind of taken the day by day approach this time, like all right, today I'm going to run this far, and I'm going to get what I get. Like I'm gonna get up tomorrow morning, I'm gonna run, and if I feel all of a sudden like, this is something doesn't feel completely right, I'll cut it. So I guess my training philosophy right now is day by day. But I do have like types of workouts that I have as my go-to. Like, all right, I'm gonna do a 5 by mile threshold workout. I'm gonna do a 3 by 2 mile threshold workout. I like marathon, like longer endurance marathon runs at marathon pace, even if I'm doing 5K training. Like, let's go try 10 miles at marathon pace and see how I feel. I mean, so I think you have to. If you hone in too much on like, let's do all this 5K pace stuff, I think you burn yourself out. If you do a bunch of marathon pace stuff, you're going to burn yourself out. I think it's variety, I guess, for me is the main thing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like the body can get really, really sick of doing the exact same thing over and over and over again, whether that's pace or intensity or distance or duration. Like you've got to have some variety in there. The body is too good at adapting. So to do the same thing over and over and over again, I think is you're not going to get full advantage of your training. Yep. So you're leaving so much on the table. So, yeah, you got variety's the spice of life, man.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's what they say anyway.
Yeah.
So how can people follow you or contact you if they've got questions for you or if they just want to stay in the loop for what you're doing coaching wise?
For sure. I mean, I hope that like, in general, my story can be followed and coaching wise and just what I'm going to do, like running wise and see what happens. I have no idea what's going to happen, but hopefully it inspires someone. But I put a lot of stuff up on my Twitter, which is just at Coach Schweikert. And then I also put a Facebook, I put some stuff, which is just Nik Schweikert, but I also have Strava account, which is just Nik Schweikert, and it's all there. I mean, my Strava stuff is just mainly like the beauty of the difference between now and when we were running is like my watch literally loads it up to my phone for me, puts it in my running log, and it's done. I mean, I was terrible at keeping a running log when I was in college, and they'd always be like,
"Same,
Schweikert, you gonna log your runs so we can see what you're doing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, yep." So now it just puts it on the phone for me. But I put a lot of stuff up on Twitter with coaching and stuff like that, and Facebook some too. But yeah, people add me on Facebook, Twitter. I don't care. It's fine. But yeah, that's where I'll be. I mean, I tried the Instagram thing, but I'm not very good at taking pictures. So I'm pretty old school still. Even at 33, and that should be in like the technology phase. I didn't have a smartphone until like 3 years ago. I had a flip phone until then. So I actually had a slide, and my slide phone slid right off, and it broke in half. And I said, "Well, I guess I got to get a phone." And when I had to go get the phone, smartphones were it. So I told you I didn't even know how to use a Skype thing to do this thing. So I don't know. I try to use the technology they tell me as a teacher that I have to use at school. I know how to use those things, and that's like it, you know. So the GPS watch thing, I always laugh. When I was in college, I used to listen to like music when I ran because I thought it made you mentally weak, and I didn't want a GPS watch because I thought that was, you know, too much information, and I didn't need that much information. I just need to go run. So it's just now I have them all, and now I have everything. So, but I don't listen to music still. I still don't do that one, but
yeah, that still makes you weak for
still
sure.
makes me mentally weak.
I agree with that one.
It zones me out.
You don't get to do that during the race. Exactly. Why would you train with it?
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
You train with it, you become dependent on it, and then you're not going to have it. So
I agree.
Shoot. Alrighty, man. So any parting words of advice for anybody watching or listening right now?
I mean, I guess I'd tell anyone just, you know, the goal always is just, you know, do your best, be the best you can be, and keep pushing forward because you never know. Like, I mean, I didn't think at 33 I'd be back at this, and so we'll see kind of what the journey goes and how the ride goes. But I hope someone else out there is going to, you know, change their mind and get back on to doing something they thought about doing. Like, I guess my big thing is the age isn't a limitation. We kind of already talked about that. Like, don't set the limitation on, you know, I can't do this because, like, don't use the excuse. Just go, just go do it and see what happens. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with me. So hopefully someone else does the same thing.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chit chat with me. I've really enjoyed it. I'm sure everybody who is watching or listening has enjoyed it as well. And yeah, we'll have you on again in the future to
sounds great
to fill us in on what's going on. And yeah, man, good luck. Keep training hard, and
thanks.
Yeah, see you down the road.
All right, sounds great. Thanks.
All right, later, y'all.
See you.